Lost may be over, but it's not forgotten. What started as a story about how survivors of a plane crash hope for rescue, evolves into the biggest mystery show the world has ever seen. Even after all this time since the show ended, Lost fans are still figuring things out and re-watching to uncover something else they didn't know. Today we'll look at 6 facts about Lost that will bring a tear to the eyes of any Lostie. So get a box of tissues, read and weep. Claire never knew Charlie's greatest hits. In Greatest Hits, the heroic Charlie Pace sacrifices himself, so that Claire and Aaron could be rescued. He knows he's going to die, and remembers the 5 greatest moments of his life. The number 1 thing on that list was The Night I Met You. Whilst on the outrigger, Charlie gives this note to Desmond and tells him, "I want you to give this to Claire for me." Desmond has a change of heart and decides to do it himself, giving Charlie the note back. However, Charlie couldn't let Desmond do this, so he hit Desmond with a paddle and put the note back into Desmond's pocket. In the number 1 most emotional moment of Lost involving a shoe, Charlie dives down to the looking glass, leaving Desmond unconscious on the outrigger. When Dearest Day awakens, he is met with Mikhail shooting at him from the shore, so Desmond, along with Charlie's note, dives overboard and swims to the underwater station. So Charlie's greatest hits, they would have got wet, torn apart, or the ink would have washed off. And we never see Desmond give this note to Claire. It's the 5 best moments of my sorry excuse for a life, my greatest hits. You know, memories are all I've got. Sadly, these memories died with him, and Claire never knew that the greatest moment in his life was the day they met. Mr. Echo's Jesus stick was blown up. I know what you're thinking. It was there when he got buried. It was the marker for Echo's grave, correct. However, when John Locke was pounding the stick into the ground, he sees "Lift up your eyes and look north," John 3:05. He took this as a sign, a compass bearing, and took the Jesus stick with him on his journey with Kate and Sayid to the Flame Station, where we met Mikhail for the first time. After winning at chess in Enter 77, Locke left the flame, which blew up behind him, along with everything inside, but no. Echo's Jesus stick did not go up in flames. However, this was still in his Locke's rucksack at this point. So, they reach the barracks, and Ben manipulates John into blowing up the submarine, which was Jack and Juliet's ticket off this damn island. The last time we saw Echo's Jesus stick was in Locke's bag, when he was climbing down the submarine hatch. When he left the sub, he was greeted by men with guns, where he laid on the floor. A moment later, boom, the sub was gone. Bloop. Locke never bought Echo's iconic Jesus stick back out with him. Why was Ji-Yun at the church? The daughter of Sun and Jin, and the first baby to be born that was conceived on island since the birth of Ethan back in 1977. Ji-Yun Kwon never met her father, and spent only 3 years with her mother, before Sun went back to the island to find Jin. Sun was pregnant with Ji-Yun at the church in the end, and as we know, the church was a place they made together, where they got to move on with the most important people in their lives. Ji-Yun moved on with Sun and Jin. If the best time of Ji-Yun's life was the time she spent with her family, considering she never met her dad, that would mean that her best moments in her life was when she was with her mother, who left when Ji-Yun was only 3 years old. And honestly, if Ji-Yun had a long life, surely there would be more important people in her life than a father she never met, and a mother she doesn't remember. I'm not saying that they wasn't important to her, they are her parents after all. But the burning question is why she was at the church. But this brings me to my next point. Charlie wasn't at the church. I know what you're thinking. Yes, he was sat next to Claire. Well, true, but I'm not talking about the bloody rock god. I'm talking about Desmond and Penny's son, Charlie Hume. The fact that he wasn't at the church, but Ji-Yun was, could mean one of 2 things. Charlie could have had a rough relationship with his parents. Maybe Desmond and Penny was too focused on each other and baby Charlie didn't feel like his most important time was with them, which I won't believe. I'm sure they would be made great parents. The other option is Charlie Hume grew to a man, and found the love of his life, which is who he would move on with. We could argue that Charlie hadn't even been conceived in September 2004, which would explain why he wasn't at the church, but there is no now, here. Which is the reason why Aaron is there. He had already been born in the afterlife. We can safely assume Desmond and Penny reunite after Hurley takes over Jacob's role on the island, and they continue to raise Charlie for many years.